The only seed starting mix I ever use is called ProMix HP, and I'm going to share with you why. I'm also going to share with you why I don't like those do-it-yourself mixes, and stay tuned to the end where I will give you a couple of tips to help make this work the best for you. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Kayla and this is 5 Canadian Acres, and if you're not new, welcome back. This ProMix HP, I'm going to start by saying, is actually the only product I've ever used. I like to do research, and I did a lot of research before I ever started growing things years ago, found this product and just stuck with it. This ProMix HP is what's called a soilless product. There's no soil or there's no organic matter in it. This has its pros and cons, of course, but one nice thing is that it's not going to bring in those fungus gnats like you find in some of the other potting soils. Seeds is they don't need any nutrients. Before they get those first set of true leaves, they have all the energy they needed. So a lot of this is just used to start them out, and then when you pot up, you can add the organic matter. Whether it be just adding some worm castings compost to this same mix, or what I do is a liquid fertilizer. There's 5 things that's actually in this mix, and I'm going to kind of break it down for you. The first one is peat moss. People get a little bit scared when they hear peat moss. They think about sustainability. Start by saying, I'm no purist. I think you got to do what works best for you. But it's good to know that the Canadian peat moss is actually grown and harvested sustainably, so there's no worries there. A lot of people will use coco coir, but for me in Canada, having to get that like harvested and shipped from, I'm not even sure where, it's got to be some tropic somewhere, that's quite an impact as well. And for me, I feel really good about using peat moss. Secondly, this product contains perlite, which is just those little white things you see in the soil, and that just basically adds aeration, like porosity, so soil's nice and light. It also contains a pH adjuster, which is just like limestone, I think dolomite ground up, because peat moss is actually really acidic. They add the right amount to bring it to the right pH for your seeds to germinate and your seedlings to grow. It also contains a wetting agent, because another problem with peat moss is it can be what's called hydrophobic. So I don't know if you've ever like left your plant to dry a long time and you go to water it and it just kind of sits on the surface. It's called hydrophobic, and actually it does happen even with this product and the wetting agent. I'll give you a tip about that. They add this wetting agent, so it just helps to be able to retain the moisture a little bit better. The last thing in this product, which I really love, is called mycorrhizae, which is a fungus they inoculate into the soil. And then this fungus actually attaches to the roots and helps them grow and be able to uptake what nutrients you give them. So I just love the convenience of how it has everything in the right proportions and the right balance to give me the success. I am a really big do-it-yourself person, and there are so many do-it-yourself seedling mixes out there, and I'm sure a lot of them work, but a lot of them you see are just like peat moss, perlite, vermiculite. That's not going to be pH balanced, and some of your seedlings might not germinate. So I really like this because they have everything in the right amounts that's going to give you the most success. And also just the ease of it. Instead of having to go buy all these products and then mix them all up in the right proportions, this is already ready to go. And honestly, this whole big bale, it was $43 here at Canadian Tire in Canada. And I really honestly don't know if you could get all those other things. I mean, maybe a little bit cheaper, but then you got to count your labor and everything, and nobody really seems to do that. Buying in bulk is always better. So these big bales, like I said, $43. You can buy smaller ones that are $20, but this is actually, you have to read on it, it's called compressed. So they've compressed it down into it. So when you open it up, it expands quite a lot. The other $20 bags, if you look on them, the same product, it actually says loose fill. So keep an eye out for that. So this bag is going to last me for my whole year. This will last me for all my planting I'm going to need to do. And I do quite a bit of planting. The 2 things that I found that are a little bit of a con to this is that it is soilless, so there's no nutrients. You are going to have to, once your plants get to have that second leaf, you're going to have to add something. I always highly recommend organic, just a simple fish fertilizer. There are tons of products on the market and they're not too expensive. You can also add compost to this, like just some worm castings, or you can buy bags of compost in order to give your plants the nutrients they need. And then the other tip is that even though it has the wetting agent, you cannot let this dry out fully because it will become hydrophobic, even with the wetting agent. If it does become hydrophobic, honestly, in those little cells, I've just kept watering it and eventually it will rehydrate. But in a large container, it might be a little bit harder. It's actually a good thing because it just helps me keep an eye on things, and you don't want plants to dry out anyways. So if you haven't settled or decided on a seed starting mix, I highly recommend this one, the ProMix HP. There's a very similar product called ProMix BX, which is the exact same, it just doesn't have as much perlite in it. That'll work just as well. I hope this helped with your decision about what you're going to start your seeds in. Even if you do something different, it'll give you a little bit of idea about the things behind what's in seed starting mixes. And if you have any more questions about seed starting mixes, go ahead and leave those in the comments below and I can answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.